To this point in this title, we've been working with a single table in Microsoft Access. Now we've done a lot of stuff with this table called album here, where we've added some fields and we've worked on field properties and we've also adjusted some of the validation rules and input masks, etc. But to be quite frank, we could have done everything we've done so far with this single table in Microsoft Excel in a spreadsheet. But we know from a previous lesson when we discussed design concepts that a flat file is very inefficient. What would happen over time is we would see a lot of redundancy, repetition, duplication of records. So by creating multiple tables and relating them to one another, we create a relational database that's far more efficient. We'll be able to quickly and easily find data, look it up, present it later on. So what we need to do in this section is talk about relationships between tables, and to do that, we first need to discuss keys. Now, I'm using the Music Library 5A database from the Lesson 5 folder of your exercise file, so you'll need to open that one up because you'll notice over here in the navigation pane I've got more than just the album table now. I've created a performers table and a songs table. Now, we said we were going to do that in a previous lesson when we were talking about design on paper. So here they are. You know how to create a table. I've just gone ahead and created these two tables, and we'll take a look at them in a minute to see what fields exist in there. If we go to the design view here for our album table, we'll see the various fields, their data types and properties. What's really important to remember though is that the album ID is our unique identifier. We'll never have a duplicate ID for any given album. And you'll notice that that's because we've got this little key icon next to album ID representing that this is our primary key. Alright, so if we go over to the performers table now and double click it to open it up, we're currently in the datasheet view. You can see we've got a performer ID field. I'm just going to stretch that out a little bit. We've got first name and last name fields. That's it. If we go to the design view, we realize that we don't have a primary key here. So we could have two different performers, for example, with the same performer ID, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is set up the primary key for this field here, performer ID. So I just need to be anywhere in the field. I'm going to go up to the ribbon. My design tab is selected here and click on the primary key button. It's that easy. So we've now set up the primary key for our performers table. We need to save those changes for them to take effect. Now take a look what I've done over here in the songs table. I'm going to double click it and switch to design view. You can see here we've got the song title, the genre, the year it was launched, the decade, and then I've got two fields down here that I can find in the other two tables. There's the performer ID, which is a primary key in the performers table, and there's the album ID, which is primary key in the album table. So I don't actually have a primary key or a unique identifier in this particular table, and that's okay in Access. You can do that. But just to be safe later on, it might be a good idea to have a song ID. And we can have it automatically generated for us so we don't have to worry about it. And although we don't need it right now, maybe down the line it will be important if we start to add additional tables and we want to be able to link them. So we don't want to have to go back and redesign our table. So what we're going to do now is actually insert a field. And I'm up here at song title. I'm going to go up to the ribbon under the design tab here and click insert rows. So I've got a new row which will represent my new field. I'm going to call it song ID. And over here in the data type, we want that to be an automatically generated number. Have auto number here for us. That's perfect. That'll automatically generate a number. We won't have to input anything there, and we'll know for sure that no number will be duplicated. So now all we have to do is make it the primary key by coming up here on the ribbon and clicking primary key. As soon as we did that in the field properties down below, you may have noticed next to indexed, it went from yes and allow duplicates to no duplicates. So it's indexed and there cannot be a duplicate because it's our primary key. So we want to save that change as well. So now we've got our three tables. Notice the three tabs up here. Here's our performers. The performer ID shows up here as the primary key. In the songs table, it shows up down here. And then if we go over to the album tab, we've got an album ID as the primary key. We'll go back to songs, and there's album ID down there. So we're going to be able to relate each of these tables one to the other in a moment. That's what we're going to do next when we talk about table relationships.